Can you put like a countdown so it gives you time to sit down?
All right.
Starting?
We're starting. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of DM Lounge. We have your host, Friendly Web, and
Alex.
Alex. Alex with an A?
Yes,
Or...
it's ALAEIYX.
Where's the DICK in there?
Just Alex.
Okay, just Alex. Got it. So today in this episode, we're going to be talking about storylines. Storylines, how to make a good story, how to meet expectations for your stories, your players' expectations.
I like that.
And all that stuff. So where do you want to start off?
I think a jumping point is off of our first episode. I think the stories will help set those expectations. The story the DM wants to tell, the story the characters want to see or tell.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like how everybody gets together and they're like, what kind of campaign are we playing? Space pirates or...
Fair, yeah. I'd hate to fucking join a campaign where I have like my typical fantasy barbarian warrior ready, and then the DM's like, psych, we're doing fucking space pirates. You're like,
Or even like a political, like...
Yeah.
It's like, I've set up this great campaign for politics and espionage, and you got like a barbarian with no clothes on, and you're just like, huh, I was ready to kill shit. Okay. So I think that, like, if you jump off the first talking points we had where we talk about setting expectations and all that stuff, and you jump into the stories, and I think it's important for players themselves to know what story they want to tell with their character.
Yeah, very important. I mean, because if you're gonna jump into a story that you don't even want to play, after the third session, you're gonna be like, why the fuck am I playing?
What the fuck am I doing here? And for me personally, like, it goes into characters' backstory. I'm a DM who loves character backstories because I like to implement character backstories into the game.
Mm-hmm.
And when a player sits down at my table and they're like, I don't got a backstory, I just want to roll dice and kill monsters. Fair, that's understandable, but for me as a DM, I want to be able to tell a story with your character.
So then when you create a world, do you create the world so you go, here's the world, and then when a character creates themselves in the world, do you then fill the world around them with their backstories, or is the world already created with a bunch of things, and then their backstory just fills in a little more?
That's the way I do it.
Okay.
So, like, I'll create the world based on the conversation we have, where it's like, okay, this is the campaign I created that I want to tell this story. What's your character and how does he fit into this world? And then I sit down with the players and I go, okay, what's your character? What's their backstory? And then I'll like look at like 3 or 4 different points and go, okay, this could fit in here. Creating like character story arcs. I tend to like to make big character story arcs that are interwoven into the backstory.
Interwoven into the world.
Interwoven into the world and into the main campaign arc. But they aren't necessary to complete the campaign arc.
Okay, so it's like a video game where you have your side characters where you don't need to complete their backstory to finish the main game. They're just there.
They're just there. If you pick up on it, you might learn some more information about the story itself and how your character fits into it.
Okay.
But if you didn't like care enough, or you didn't want to, or it wasn't interesting enough, which I don't tend to find that happen a lot. The characters are like, they get involved in the story I create. Hopefully.
Yeah.
You know?
You have certain players that no matter how much you give them, they're like, is that backstory and not like a monster that I can level up from? I'm not interested. Who gives a fuck?
I don't fucking care. More talking, more hitting.
Exactly.
And it's natural.
It's what that dice do, though.
What that dice do. But I definitely think it's important to talk about all these stories because there are so many different stories you can go into when just creating a D&D campaign. Yeah. You have your main story arc, and then typically DMs, what they'll do is they'll create like mini arcs, and you have that background overarching story for the campaign, and then you have like the mini arcs, like the level 1 through 5, the level 5 through 11, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
That build up into the major story arc. So
okay.
that's
like definitely your way of creating a world.
My way of creating a world is really complicated and overwhelming. Sometimes I tend to create a world that's living and breathing. Right? So that's why I create the world first, and the continents and what's going on in each continent, because I like to create stories for the players to hook on. And let's say there's maybe 3 or 4 campaign arcs I want to tell. Depending on the storylines that the players like hook on first, that's the storyline that happens.
Okay.
And then in the background, these other storylines are still going on, but they aren't as important to the players because that's not the one they.
I think what you just mentioned is so important for like DMs and storylines and when they run stuff. When you introduce a story, when you introduce a plot or something into the group, and they are pumped for it. They're down for it. They're all for it. They're gun ho. Run with it. Yes. Go with that story. Absolutely. But the second you introduce something and nobody gives a fuck, throw it to the side.
Yeah.
Don't force it.
I don't like to do that. I know there are some DMs out there that.
Yeah. No name. But when you force a narrative on players that don't care about it, and the reasoning is that's how the world works. It's a bad reasoning because you are how the world works. You are whatever the world works is based on you create. You could literally go, the sky is green because that's how the world works because that's how I say it works. That's just how it works.
I've seen some DMs do this too, where it's like the players will like harp on something that the DM meant as a throwaway point. Yeah, and they'll be like, "Wait, tell me more about that." And the DM will sit there and literally be like, "There's nothing else." And it's like kind of a buzzkill because
it's a super buzzkill.
And I think that's where like some improv goes a long way to being able to tell this story. It's like, okay, why they want to know more about this. I may have not created anything for it, but it's simple enough to be like, okay, guys, stopping the game and going, I like that you guys want to do this. Give me a little bit of time to work on that next session. Or
that's hard to do.
It is.
That's very hard to do. Where you're like, guys, I need a second.
It's hard to do because you don't want to break the immersion.
Of course. And
you're like, some DMs when they're stuck in their ways, they'll go, no, there's nothing else, or this storyline doesn't go anywhere. And then they continue on, and some players get discouraged. They're like, what I feel like it breaks the verisimilitude of the world. Like the realness, the verisimilitude.
That's a fucking $5 word.
That's an STD word. That's an STD word.
Damn.
STD. SAT word. Verisimilitude.
Verisimilitude.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is when the world feels real. Like you know when you go watch a movie.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, this is believable.
Yeah.
And you're like, I can see all this happening. But then when something happens in the world and you're like, no.
Keanu Reeves falling from a 40-story building, just and then walking off. Like,
maybe
no. But I get what you mean. When it breaks that realism, it makes perfect sense. You follow a story, you follow a world, you get invested into a world because you understand the laws of how that world works. When you do this happens. The second that doesn't happen, it breaks your immersion. Like, whoa, wait a minute.
Like, why can't...
What happened before? Why didn't it do that?
I don't like that at all, because I hear a lot of DMs online, and I consume a lot of D&D content online. But some DMs are like, players sit down, and there's an unspoken rule about everybody agreeing to play the story you're telling.
That's
and I don't agree with that. Like, I come to play D&D to operate in this world. Yes, I know that there's a storyline that the DM wants to put out, but if something else is a little bit more engaging, one to the player and the story I want to tell, or the other players want to tell, the player is going to be like, yeah, no, my character would follow that thought line and follow that. What do I give a shit about, like, the bandit lord who's kidnapping children? My character doesn't fucking care.
What's insane is that people that follow the story to a T like that, not a single one of the really, really fun and enjoyable D&D stories that you've ever heard online start from, I followed the story that the DM went.
Oh, no, absolutely.
It's always, we did some crazy, wild shit that ended up in chaos. Fucking time went wishy-washy, wobbly-bobbly, and then my mother was a goat. Like,
huh?
Huh?
Like, what the fuck?
But it's not following that storyline because that's boring.
Yeah.
That's a storyline that's been told to death. Who gives a fuck?
Nobody. It's if you sit down at the table and you go, "Hey guys, I want to tell this story. I want you guys as players to understand that I'm going to put plot hooks out there. I would like you guys to follow them." Then have that conversation. But don't sit down at the table expecting all your players to go, "Yes, that's the storyline I want to tell because you're the DM and I'm the player." No. Me personally, I come to play D&D because I want to tell a story with my character.
Yeah.
I'm definitely the player who sits down and be like, I have a story for this character and I want to see it.
Yes.
That's the way I look.
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not at all.
What are you?
So whenever I create, so I do not create a character with an intricate backstory or an intricate personality until I start playing. My character's personality and backstory develops as the game goes.
Okay.
Because I don't want like a cookie cutter bullshit nothing backstory, but sometimes those are the most fun because the world creates the character instead of me coming into the world with an already created character.
Okay. And for me, like, that bothers me sometimes.
Fair.
Like, that bothers me sometimes because, like, as a DM, I want to know what your character's purpose is in this. Like, the old days of, like, second edition where it's like you're adventuring for money, glory, and fame.
That's boring.
It's boring to me. Some people love that shit. Like, I have a player, that's all he does. All his characters are the same two-dimensional, and one's just a rogue, one's just a sorcerer, but they all just want to accumulate money.
That's exhausting.
That's fine for the player.
Okay.
Like, that's what he wants to tell, and he develops his character as he goes along. I would want to see some back. It doesn't have to be a lot. Like a paragraph. Like,
oh yeah, that's basic though. A paragraph should be basic. Where like you have some way to connect to your world.
And some players don't do that. Like, some players will be like, all my family is dead. I don't care about anything, and I just want to adventure. Is that like?
I find that so. The issue I have with that is that it's a short-lived player. A lot of the times when I see those kind of players where they're only there for that, they will come for a handful of sessions, maybe a month or two, and they no longer give a fuck because they're not invested into the character, they're not invested into the world. They're like, all right, yeah, I roll 4 dice, I like combat. Oh, I got anything else to do? I'm gonna go do that.
It just, I don't know. For me, it just sucks. Like, as a DM, there are some people. Like, I have another player who sits at the table, and he didn't want any connections. Like, he had like a rough storyline about his parents, and he was a shut-in wizard who didn't really like care about his family.
Yeah.
And he keeps coming. He's one of those reactionary players. Like,
okay,
he didn't introduce anything bad in his backstory or anything that the DM could harp on, but he wants to sit at the table and see what happens and have his character react and develop as he goes along.
Okay.
Which is fair.
Fine.
I can't do that, like, as a DM. I don't know why. It's just, I guess it's from the way I was introduced to the game, man. Like,
fair.
Darren, my first ever DM, I think I talked about him on the first episode. He was very big on backstories, and to his detriment, like, he let players write 4 or 5 page backstories about how they killed dragons and then
at level 3.
At level 3. And you're like, okay, maybe not that much.
Yeah.
But it gave me like a way to play the game where it's like, I want to see this. I, as a DM, want to see the stories of the players unfold and how they deal with the problem and deal with what's happening to their character. So that's the story I want to tell.
You know, as I'm hearing you, as I'm listening to this, thinking back to the times that I've DM'd, thinking back to the times I've played. For example, a D&D that I started recently, that I do on Wednesdays. A lot of the players are very new, so they're not not accustomed to the game at all. So they basically came out to me, hey, I want to play D&D. Can you DM for us? I'm like, sure, I'd love to. When I introduced the world, when I started going to the world, none of them made any backstories. But I was like, no. We're going to talk about what you did. We're going to talk about what you're doing, why you're doing this, why you're doing that. And we're going to give you something.
Of course.
Something.
Anything. And that's the conversation that I think deserves starting to talk about your backstory with your DM. If there's something,
I think it's super important.
I think so. You know what, if you don't want like a super intricate backstory, that's fine too. Have goals for your characters. I think that to me is the most important thing.
Yes. I'd rather goals than an intricate backstory.
Yeah, like I look at the backstory because to me it gives me an idea of what the player may want to accomplish. But ultimately, you can have a very mundane backstory about like, I was an average Joe, nothing ever bad happened to me, and that's it.
Yeah.
But if you have a goal for your characters, like, I want to be more than average, or I want to find the secret temple of the lost gods, like, then that gives the DM something to work with and tell a story. And he can do either a side story or weave it into the main story or whatever. I know a lot of DMs don't like to like weave backstories into the main story arc.
Oh, I think it's fantastic.
I think it's great. I love it.
I think it's fantastic so long as it makes sense.
Yes.
When it's shoot in, when it's just thrown in just cause.
Yeah.
But a big issue is you. One of the things to go like, you don't need to weave every single character's backstory into the main plot, because when you force everyone's backstories, which have nothing to do with each other, then it feels shoot in.
Yeah.
But like one or two, but you have one or two that are like main. Like Luffy status and stuff like that, but every other character has had their time, has had their moment, and it's okay. And everyone's okay with that.
Yeah,
that's perfectly fine. But when you're only focusing on one person, then it's a little fucked.
Yeah, then the spotlight starts to like get fluctuated, and then the DM focuses on one player, and then you're like, that sucks.
Yeah, like why am I here? Where's my character style?
Where's my story? I want to shine.
I want to shine. Yeah,
and. I'm guilty of that. Like, I like to weave all the characters' backstories into the main story arc, not because everybody has something to do with the main bad guy or something. I like to do it in a way where it may not have anything to do with the end fight or something, but maybe that character's parents or something were involved in a war a long time ago that led to this. And if you resolve your character's backstory, you may uncover some information or some clue that may help your character specifically.
Okay.
That's just me.
Okay.
I like to do grandiose storylines for my characters because I get invested. I'm like, this is great. Let's see where it goes. And for like Sinbad, for example, your character in my game is like, this is great. He has a backstory in the world, but he has a different goal that has nothing to do with
it.
It's like, he's like chasing this thing and he wants to create a civilization and like make it better. That has nothing to do with his past. And I don't mind. Like, okay, cool. There's still that part of his past in the world that relates to him and what it means to be in this world. But if that's not something he wants to explore, it's not going to hinder his storyline of achieving his goal.
Yeah. Okay.
And it works because you talk to me as a player and go, hey, this is what Sinbad wants. Cool. That's what Sinbad wants. I will try to. I'm not going to give it to players. I'm like, Sinbad wants to create a civilization. Great. Next day, you're king.
Yeah. It's like, no. It takes time. It takes work and stuff. Of course.
Yeah.
But when the players are willing to do the work and willing to put the time in, that's when you're like, yeah, bro, I'm going to reward you. What the fuck? And it's not just about making them roll a skill check.
No.
A lot of the times, DMs will say, hey, in order for you to progress in this way or stuff like this, you need to roll certain DCs. I think it's terrible.
What do you mean by that?
So, for example, you want to find this? In order to find this, you need to, or in order to find this, or in order to progress, like let's say a character wishes to locate a secret organization, and they're doing everything they can, but the only thing stopping them is a DC 20.
That's so bad.
I think it's not good storytelling. Regardless of what you roll, the character needs to failing forward.
Oh,
They
absolutely.
need to progress in a forward motion. They always need to move forward towards their goal, or else it feels like it's a waste of time.
I agree. So it's like, okay, this character wants to find a secret organization. Roll me a investigation check. Nat 1. You don't find any information. You can't move forward on that storyline. I think that's bad.
I think yes, I think it's bad, and it's not that it's bad. It's not the proper way of motivating your characters. Because as a DM, you want to always push your characters towards a goal. You always want to push your characters, even when they do something stupid. Players are fucking stupid. You always want to push them towards something because you want everyone to have fun. If people aren't having fun, then what's the point?
Absolutely. I think that a good way to tell that storyline is a lot of players, especially new ones, will sit down and like they'll try to do something. It's like, I want to roll an investigation check to find out about this. It's like, no, that's stupid. What do you do to get through that investigation?
Yes.
Like, what is your character doing specifically? Let's say they get a nat 1, they find no information, but now somebody caught wind that they're actually investigating them. So maybe they get paid a visit in a few sessions. Hey, I heard you were looking for something you shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
Ask more questions, and we might hurt somebody you love.
It's like, oh, you might have found exactly what you were looking for.
Yeah, like
I don't know the way you wanted to.
No. Like, or even like you go visit your family one day, and your mom is dead, and there's a note from that organization. Keep looking. We dare you.
Yeah.
Something that
your dog's kidnapped.
Not the dog. Don't fuck with the dog. Especially if any of your characters are named John Wick. No. But like I definitely think failing forward is something I learned from Matt Colville, which he gives great advice online about how to run games and shit. Mm-hmm. Failing forward is definitely a good way to continue progress on the storyline, even when your characters don't meet that DC. And I think that I don't think any of the rules in Dungeons and Dragons does a good job about like that. Like there's investigation checks.
It's hard to put that in words.
It is, but I think
with like checks and it's like.
I think Xanathar's Guide is probably the closest thing you've gotten to being able to do investigation checks or like get information. But even then, like. I feel like it's lacking something. I don't know what, because I don't fucking know.
We're fucking idiots.
I'm by no means like a good DM or anything.
I agree.
I'm sure there's a bunch of people online who'd be like, that DM sucks. He wants backstories from everybody. But using your thing, like stories, you don't have to erase that. Like, don't look at that. I was holding it backwards. Wow. I think like a basic good way to implement the story and that you're trying to tell in the games is most DMs will use this thing where it's like arc 1. There we go. I hope everybody can see it. And it starts here and ends here. That's usually like your local level 1 through 5.
Yeah. Everyone meeting up, becoming a team. Teamwork, blah, 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 shenanigans, bullshit, not killing each other, hopefully.
And then, like, you have to defeat a local baron who's poisoning the well.
Sure.
Great. And then you find out that he was actually employed by somebody else in the capital or whatever.
Yeah.
And you have arc number 2. And then typically a third arc, and it ends the campaign session. Maybe a devil was paying them off, blah, 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 blah. And then there's the overarching main campaign storyline that's in the background of all these things. But hopefully by the time you get here, you've uncovered, like here you're picking up pieces about this storyline, right? Main story, right? And that's usually the way that people tell the storylines. Mm-hmm. Sometimes a good way to tell like a backstory or something is in Arc 1, the Baron was related to one of the fucking players, whatever.
Yeah.
It's your secret dead aunt. Risen 3 times over.
Found a diary with her.
Whatever. And then, okay, one player is resolved of his arc, and then he continues forward. I find that kind of lackluster. It's like, cool, one player told his story in arc 1 that may have been resolved, and now he's completing all 3 arcs. You're hoping for the sake of this and to help the other players. But I don't find that engages players too well all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when you engage the players in this level up here, well, now some people are like, wait, what did my aunt mean in her diary about a devil? Like, she was a warlock or something. She had a patron. Now that moves that character forward into trying to resolve what the fuck was going on.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm making this shit up as I go along.
No. I think so. For example, for a campaign that I run, so there's the main story. There's the plot. The characters are all together and they're all moving forward because X. Because this, they're trying to stop this or prevent.
Yep.
Or prevent this
from
happening here. However, the reason this is happening is because of this.
Yes.
So this occurred, and they, by choice, I say by choice, but I'm not forcing them, but I emphasize, like, hey, look, there's something here. You don't have to go to it, but if you want, you know.
Yeah, I think that's fine. You're giving your players, you're reminding of hey, this is what's available to you guys.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that as a DM.
Yeah. So just to go into more detail, players go into a castle with a vampire. And in the area that they're at, vampires are known as evil. They're known as bad. They're known as killing and massacring. This vampire wants nothing more than to die.
Oh, that's cool.
So,
That's really cool.
So the players walk into a castle that's been ransacked and it's pretty much destroyed. The vampire's like, hey, can you kill me? That's all I want. So half the players at the beginning, yeah, sure, we'll kill you. The other half are like, wait, maybe something's going to attack us. Maybe this is maybe that. They start questioning. And the vampire is blind, weak, and could die in one hit.
Oh shit.
But all she wants is to die, so it wouldn't take much to kill her.
Okay.
And she's been so the vampire has the curse of she spreads her depression. So whenever reminded of things in her previous life, everyone around her makes a wisdom save and becomes sad.
That's so sad.
Right?
That's so sad.
The setting for the campaign is gothic horror.
Okay, I like it. I love it a lot.
So so as they dig more into the castle, they look around more. They find out more information about this queen. She's been here, this vampire. She's been here since before the collapse of the realms, before everything turned to shit, before the gothic horror setting. So maybe she might have information why it happened. And they start finding more and more and more and more, and then it's like, oh, she was married to a dragon, and this, that. They find pictures and notes and stuff like that, which they could have got in, murdered,
and never found anything else.
But it's like them finding out more, than doing that stuff, invests them more into the main story. Now, the players have the queen with her and are trying to help her cure depression. And I'm like,
what a wholesome game.
I'm like, sure, why not?
What a wholesome game. Yeah. We're trying to cure the vampire's depression.
Trying to cure the queen.
I like that. I like that. I find that...
And they found out a shitload of stuff about the main... Not a shitload. They find out little things like that. One of them, one of the items that I gave, one of the coolest fucking items, I think, they're a pair of glasses. And if these glasses, when worn, ever look at writing of any kind, whether they be engraved, written, they will give you insight as to when they were written. They will give you a flashback as to when the writing was written.
That's kind of cool.
So you look on inscription on a wall, it'll show you a flashback of the person inscribing it on the wall.
Really cool.
So they had the glasses, and they looked into a journal of the dragon who was writing when the realms were collapsing, and they got a flashback to the war of the two realities collapsing, and it broke the glasses. But it was like
That was
It's like, oh, cool. I saw something you shouldn't have.
It's pretty fucking epic. How did your players resolve that issue of like half of them wanting to kill her and the other half being like, let's not?
So at the beginning, there were 4 players. At the beginning, 3 of them were like, yeah, that's fine, we'll kill her. And then one of them was like, wait a minute, let's search more, let's look more into it. There's no reason to kill her. She's not going anywhere. She's been here for 500 years. We can always come back and kill her.
We can always come back.
Yeah.
No, please don't go. Kill me.
Yeah. And then, I had an NPC with them because he was taking them through the vampire district as a guide. They were like, "What do you think?" He's like, "Whatever you guys want. I'm not going to weigh in on anything because it's me. Okay. I'm not weighing in on anything that your decision is.
Yeah.
He is for whatever you want."
Yeah. Like the fucking NPC who's like, "I'll be right back. I'm going to take care of all your problems."
Yeah. Fuck that. So they dug more. They looked more into it. And they're like, wait, what if someone's protecting her? What if this? What if that? You know, we're gonna sleep on it. Da-da-da. Then they find the secret journal, the secret thing, and all that kind of stuff. Then they were like, fuck that. We're good.
Yeah, no, she's more valuable alive.
She's more valuable alive. More valuable as an ally, possibly in the future, whatever the case is, for this arc.
I like that.
Because she obviously couldn't stop this, but she might help with this.
That's really cool, and it's awesome when players are invested in that story and they want to continue that storyline.
Yeah.
But I'm sure 100%, like if the players immediately killed her,
yeah,
right, and then they're like, oh, but we're so interested in this random other thing. As a DM, it's like, okay, well, that's what they're interested in. Is it significant in the world? Is there a story to tell them?
So for example, if they completely X'd off that pathway that could have led to more story of the main, it would have diverted into that story being told in a different way, in a different manner. They would have still gotten similar information, but in a different manner that they're more interested in.
Okay.
Because I still want to give them some information based on what they're doing about the main story and like as to why everything's shit. But just not in that manner.
Yeah, of
course. So for example, they're not interested in the thing. All right, what are they interested in? Let's find what they're interested in. Give them some good reason why, and then give them also a story for the main overarching storyline.
I find, especially like if you're DMing a game for long periods of time, checking in with your players is important.
Yeah.
Like this goes for like probably campaigns that are longer than 6-7 months. To check in with your players and be like, what are you guys doing, like individually and as a group? Like, what is your goals and what are you trying to accomplish here? Because any game that lasts past 6 months or a year, that's a long time.
I'd say that's like in the 5%.
Yeah, it's very rare, but still, like, it's important. Like, if you are running a game like that, to be like, okay, cool. As a DM, like, I want to check in. It's been a year. Like, there's a lot of stuff, and especially for me, because this is like the typical thing that people tend to do, and I tend to do something completely different. Here is what I tend to do. Okay, here we go.
You like a blanket of layers.
Main 1, main 2.
Oh, I know you do this. You
3, and then main 4. I tend to do that because of the way I create my world. I'm not saying it's a good or bad way to do it. I'm just saying that's what I do.
Yeah.
And I have 3 or 4 main story arcs, right? And then I have like fucking arc 1, 1.2, and 1.3. And like I do the same thing for all my arcs, because if they get hooked on main storyline 2, or they uncover something about this main storyline through arc 1.2, like it creates a different story. I tend to be the kind of DM that like lets the story unfold based on the way that the players are engaging in the world.
Yeah.
It's like I don't have set storylines, and like I do have like, okay, here's your arc, or here's like the problem number 1 and problem number 2. But depending on where they like start and what problem they solve triggers one of these storylines. But it's because of the way I create my world. My world is living and breathing. And you have like continent 1 here, continent 2 over here, and like this has nations, and each nation has its own fucking story. Everybody, this is, I know it's fucking wild. Like this makes no sense.
Sounds exhausting.
It is. It's fucking exhausting. But this makes no sense to anybody because like most DMs are like, this is impossible to keep track of, which it kind of is sometimes. But I do it to my own detriment.
Okay.
Because I like to go, the world is living and breathing. If you think about Earth, right? We have Russia, China, US, all these other places that have their own shit going on. And if you're playing in the US and you're like, oh, there's a main story arc here, let's tell that story. That doesn't stop all these things or all these other people from living and things going on in the background. Hell, this continent over here might know about that storyline.
Yeah.
And they're like, we need to prepare our own shit in case the destruction of the world happens, whatever is going on. And I tend to like drop my players into this world and then tell their story involving it. And some players, their story doesn't involve main storyline number 2. It involves storyline number 4.
See, I'm not saying it's wrong.
It's probably
because it is
completely wrong. It's probably,
but this looks exhausting to tell.
It is, and it's because when I sit down as a DM, I want to make sure my players have something that they like.
Yeah.
And it tends that sometimes, 9 times out of 10, what ends up happening is players like to take breaks from the main. They'll pick up on the main storyline and they'll be like, that's cool, and then get bored of it or follow something else that was a throwaway, and you're like, you know what? That's main storyline number 2. These storylines get put on. Like, they don't advance in the same way that main storyline 1 and 2 do.
Yeah.
Because, okay, now you've triggered the storyline to start. I know, it's... I need red string and little fucking circles, but players are working on the storyline, completing the arc, and they'll take a break and be like, oh, but we found this letter from a fucking noble that was asking for weapons and waiting for a depot.
Yeah.
Which is this storyline.
There it goes.
Yeah, that's my world collapsing.
I see what you mean.
I know.
I want to erase that and then.
Yeah, I know. Erase it from your memory.
Yes, I already repressed it. Don't worry. What? Oh my god.
Oh, nose. Here I got it. There we go. That's nope.
Not better at all.
At all. Oh, okay. I think that was. It is. Oh no, it says dry erase.
All right, so.
Nope, that's just making it worse.
All right, so when I create a story, when I create a world, this is typically the way I envision it.
It's flat, right? The world is flat?
Yes, the world's always flat.
Oh, thank God.
So
circular worlds.
I create a world, I create a story where this happens because of this, because of this, because of this. So it's a straight line. So how I envision it is the players, so if you want to do it into arcs, whatever, the players will begin to go along this line. Then a player will come up with something cool and creative, thinking out of the box. And at this point, it is my job as a DM to bring it back into the box with their same idea and involve it into the story.
Oh, absolutely.
So their cool and awesome idea that I find fucking super cool, it's great. Just grab it, and I'm going to implement it into the story. And then the entire time as they're thinking, and then the entire time as they're thinking out of the box, grabbing it, cool, implementing the story, and then rewriting this story. So now, instead, this story is looking wavy.
Yeah.
And keep going. Oh, back. Oh,
yeah,
back.
Yeah.
Back. Oh, a little more wave. All right, we're going to change the story a little bit. But it's always moving in one direction. It's never going off and branching into another story, branching into a story. It's typically moving always this way. And it's my job to make them interested and wanting to know more about the story and wanting to come back every single week,
of course.
every single other week, So that way we're always moving in one direction. Because to me, one of the most one of the hardest things to follow sometimes is a storyline where there's 40 different things that you have to do and 40 different arcs and all that kind of stuff, because one goal is usually it's just the cleanest way to go.
It is. And I'm not, again, I didn't say it was right.
No,
I do it to my own detriment. Like, it hurts sometimes because sometimes the players don't know what may be going on, or they mix things up. And it's my job to be like, okay, you got this piece of information and you think it relates to storyline number one, but it has nothing to do with it. So I understand. That's just the way like it works in my head.
I mean, that's the idea.
But like the way you have it here, where they're like, okay, cool, we're going down this way, and oh, that's a weird idea. Let's bring it in. It's what I tend to do, because one of the shittiest things is when a player does something really cool or really awesome, and the DM's like, nothing.
So it's following the same box, but instead the player goes outside the box, and the DM goes,
fuck, you're out of, get back in the box.
Shut the fuck up, go back in the storyline. Or shut the fuck up, go back in the storyline. That is the worst feeling as a player.
I agree. I don't like that.
What's the point of you playing then? They might as well write a book.
The reason I do my campaigns that way with these many different stories is because I like to, when I play, I like to be in a world where it feels real. Like, it feels like there isn't just one problem to solve. If you look hard enough, you're going to find more things wrong in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to you. One of my players calls it the dragon in the tavern. Not to talk to the dragon in the tavern every time you go somewhere. And that's exactly what he says every time. It's like they go somewhere and one of the players also tend to have group ADHD.
I think they just have normal ADHD.
Oh, well, like when players get together as a group,
fair.
They tend to have ADHD. It's like, we came to this small town to investigate the murder of Sir William Nottingham.
Mm-hmm.
But he was married to somebody, and that somebody is running a tavern. She has been missing for a few days. And you're like, wait, now we're going to look for his wife. We don't give a fuck about it. And then you uncover something else, and they're like, the mayor of this town is doing something illegal. Let's forget the sheriff of Nottingham and go investigate the mayor. Players will do that.
Yeah.
And it is your job as a DM to either A, why did you throw that in there? Like, why did you put that storyline of the sheriff, of the mayor doing something illegal, to give your players that other storyline? Either A, incorporate it into the story like it should have been from the beginning, unless you're a shit DM.
Were you looking in the mirror?
No, I'm looking at myself.
Yeah, you're looking in the mirror.
But me as most DMs would do that. Yeah. Most DMs would be like, yes, the mayor's doing something illegal, and have it connect to that story about how the guy got murdered.
Yeah.
Me, not all the time. I may not do that. I may be like, nope, that's a whole separate issue in and of itself.
And there's nothing wrong with that play style unless you're you. No,
but
it's just how you DM.
Yeah.
I personally like. I like the idea of always moving towards the goal, just because I know that allowing or giving that option to the players, the storyline will get super convoluted, and it'll be hard to track in 10 sessions from now.
Oh, absolutely. So I know I gave like a very broad example, like very specific, but what I tend to do in this kind of scenario is, let's say you guys are investigating a priest poisoning the well. And
I always love that. The priest poisoning the well because the town's demons.
The town's just full of, I love that storyline.
It's great.
But the priest is poisoning the well, and it's your job to stop what's going on.
Yeah.
Right? Not in the town, but let's say outside of the town or in a different town altogether, I may drop another hint at a different storyline. And it wouldn't relate. I wouldn't make it related to demons. I wouldn't make it related to like religion or temples, because I know that would get complicated. what I would do is I'd probably drop another hint at something else going on related to the Feywild. Like, fucking elves are gone, like, missing or some shit. Okay. That gives the players an option. Do we continue down this path, or is this more interesting? And if they continue down that path, okay, cool. We're going to go that. And then sometimes it happens all the time. It's like, okay, we finish this. Now we want to know about those elves going missing. Sometimes they'll be like, elves gone missing.
Fuck this thing.
Fuck the priest. Let him keep killing people. But here's the reason why I do that sometimes. It's because the world is real and our decisions have consequences.
Okay.
And when players tend to go, yeah, let's go investigate the elves gone missing because it's important to my characters, for example. What it does is it sets a clock on the fact that they didn't go and stop that first thing, but they went over here. And then when they go back and see what happened to the priest and the kids, well, the kids may be dead and they didn't stop it, and that's on them. Or now they have to stop a bigger problem, like the priest summoned a demon or some shit.
But with that example, if a group of players saw that the priest was killing or doing whatever, versus unless the Feywild side thing that you presented is on the same level of like malicious, then it wouldn't give any significance to them caring about it.
I as a storyteller, I usually wouldn't do that. I wouldn't give it significance. I would give it like something like a hint or like a small.
But even then, so all right, the priest is doing something bad.
Yes,
priest bad.
Priest bad. Stop.
Feywild, something not bad.
Something
Something meh. So they ignore the priest and they go to the Feywild. Then they come back to stop the priest and they discover that their actions had consequences. If the player did not care enough about the priest to stop his actions immediately, they don't give a shit about him killing kids.
Probably, but
they wouldn't care because they had no drive for it. So like if you present them that,
players tend to have ADHD. That's what I mean.
Fair.
Some players will be like, "Oh, that's the storyline in front of us right this second. That priest is another town over. Let's go investigate this while we're here."
But you would hinder the players.
I would
not hinder. You would not punish, but like mentally punish them for having ADHD instead of just, hey, go stop the priest.
I'm not saying it's a good way to tell stories, bro. I'm not. I'm just saying the way that I do is because I like to create a world that seems real.
Everyone has a shitload of problems. Everyone's got shit to do.
Yeah, like there's always.
It's not just one dude.
No, there's never just one problem. And that's the way that's what I tell my players before we start a game. This is how I like to tell a D&D story. This is how I like to tell the stories in my game.
Yeah.
There's never just one problem. Are you guys okay with that? I make sure that my players understand that and that not everything links together. And sometimes you hit a dead end like this. The elves disappearing from the Feywild may lead to absolutely nothing. Because sometimes that happens. Like, it meant nothing. And it's just because that's the way the world works. I know it's not the most nice way. Like when people sit down at a table or like listening to me talk, they're like, what the fuck is he talking? Like how much blow did that guy just do right now?
It's a dinner.
It's just dinner. It's dinner. But it's just the way I like to tell stories. I will, all those different story arcs you saw, if the players never touch on any of them or care, like I'm not going to bring them in and penalize them.
Fair.
But sometimes some players will do this where like they try to do two storylines at once, I do run the clock on both those storylines because now they've started it.
That's fair. Yeah, especially if they're trying to do two things at once when you say, hey, these are time sensitive.
Yeah.
You can't just like.
And I wouldn't make both of them time sensitive. I'd make one of them.
Sometimes that's the best. Sometimes that's really good storytelling.
It is.
You got to choose.
I've done that before too, where it's like you guys are doing two separate storylines, and you got 2 months to do. Like 2 months, this is going to happen, and in a month and a half, this is going to happen. What are you doing? Both like quests lead to different sides of the world, and some players love that kind of shit. It's like, fuck.
It's like, we stopped this. We stopped this, but we couldn't stop this. And what are the ramifications of this?
And I think that's where interacting with the world in itself comes into play. A lot of players will just like sit to themselves and be in a group is like, we are the ultimate superpower of stopping all the problems.
Yeah, it's well, but you always want to feel like the hero of your.
Of course, and I'm not saying that that's wrong. What I'm saying is, because of that, some players may not tend to interact with the world the way that a DM may want.
Fair. Like you're not important. I'm the hero. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, it's like, I don't give a fuck that you're the king of this area. Like, I'm gonna go fix the problem, and you're gonna pay me.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of a shit way of looking at the world.
And if you want your players to interact with the world, you need to have the world interact with them.
Yes.
Because if, let's say, you made part of your story integral, some lore about your world in a specific town that you want them to interact with, you need to give them a reason to interact with that.
Yes.
Like,
I agree.
No player is going to be like, let's go check out that town because it sounds cool. No. Like, okay, why do they need to check out that town? Maybe there is a human ranger that they need to complete their quest. But that guy does care about the town, and that town has something going on, and he enlists the players to help. If you need my help, I need your help to do this.
Yeah, that's done a lot of the time.
It is.
But it always works. It's really good.
Done like that for a reason, because if you as a DM want your players to learn about lore, you need to give them the reason to.
Yes, they have to be the ones that want to read it.
Yes.
Not, here's my lore. Fuck no.
One of the other things that DMs, because it's the easiest thing to do, is you need the staff of defeating bad guys in order to beat the bad guy.
Yeah, it's like, so lame. So lame.
Whatever. I understand, but it's like, okay, this is the staff. I think Matt Colville did this. He's like, the bad guy's invincible, so you need the staff of vulnerability to defeat it. And it's like, you want your players to know where it is and how to find it. Mm-hmm. So you got to tell them how to find it. Like,
how to find the Deus Ex Machina.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Here's your Deus Ex Machina. Go find it so you can do the thing to.
Well,
to
no,
win the game.
It's not Deus Ex Machina. It's
the thing that's
the MacGuffin. Yeah, it's the MacGuffin.
Yeah, the MacGuffin.
The Deus Ex Machina is like if an NPC showed up with it at the end of the fight, like, "Hey guys, I found it!
I found the staff that you couldn't find for 40 sessions because you're idiots."
Which, by the way, is shitty storytelling.
That is dog shit.
I do not like Deus Ex Machinas for no reason. Now, good Deus Ex Machinas can be great because you're like, you've enlisted the help of a king 3, 4, 5 sessions ago, and you're like, hey, we're gonna,
like 20 sessions ago. When stuff like, when you do stuff in the storyline and you forget about it, 20 sessions later, it shows up. You're like, oh,
that's
what?
So cool.
That's the best feeling ever.
I love that. It's like, okay, I got, for example, the way that I run, I got these 2 things. I can only do one. King, we are going to go take care of something. There's something else really bad over there.
Yeah.
Send some people to fucking take care of it. We can't. And then you leave, go take care of that. You come back, and you join the forces of this guy who's holding this thing at bay. And you're like, that's really cool. Like, it sucks if you get to the second storyline.
And it didn't care.
And it didn't care. There's like one guy is like, yeah, the king sent me to go investigate, and everybody I came with is dead.
Yeah, that is probably, that's like one of the worst fucking things you could do, is because all of the work and all of the strife that your players gave for something that ultimately didn't matter.
Yeah,
it's like, what the fuck?
I think
it's like the worst feeling.
And I think that's the key, is like, you want things to matter.
Yes,
especially as a player. You sit down at a game and you're like, I want my decisions to matter. Mm-hmm. And the easiest way for that to happen is when the DM takes what you're doing in the game and shows you that your actions matter.
Yeah.
I think 100%, I think that's...
But it's showing, because at the end of the day, whatever they do can change the world, but if it's not shown, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter, because the player is the one who decides if he comes back the next week and the following week continues the storyline. The second it looks like his actions, his efforts are worthless, he's not going to continue his actions because they're worthless. What's the point? Yep. So that would immediately die. So as a DM, I think it's super important to show your players that what they're doing whether right or wrong, is doing something.
Yeah,
What it is, who knows, but it's doing something.
I'm definitely one of those DMs who sits down and I let the players tell the story. Like, again, I put out all these different plot hooks where they want to go. I tend
Main plot number 47.
main plot number 47. I tend not to like drive my players forward. One, I just hate railroads as a player, so I try not to do that to my players. And obviously in episode 4, we said that in episode 4 is railroad.
Episode 4 is railroading.
I tend not to want to put my game on wheels and be like, here is your story.
Yeah.
I like my players to do that. I think it showed really well in one of my games where the players had access to scry and they were able to acquire a helm of teleportation, and they did something completely like out of left field that I could never account for. They went to go visit one of the players' one of the player characters' backstory like connection, her love interest. And her love interest was a priestess, and what ended up happening was that they had this orb, and this orb like had like super secret magical abilities, and they used it to scry on the bad guy they were looking for.
Okay.
And then they used teleportation to teleport to where the bad guys were at.
Huh.
I was like, that's really cool. And they would have never been able to do that had they not been able to get to this player, this NPC's location, because she was the only one who could cast scrying. They cast scrying, they teleport to the bad guy, they do something, take something away from him, and then, oh, I'm sorry, they didn't have the orb at the time. The bad guy had the orb.
Yeah.
And they go to her, they have her cast scrying. In the scrying, she's able to make it visible for everybody. And then they go and teleport to the bad guy, get this magical orb, which is the MacGuffin, and bring it back.
Okay.
And I'm like, that's fucking
that's cute.
cool.
I like that.
They just handicapped the bad guy.
That's cool.
In a really big way.
Now he's like after them.
Now they put a target on their back.
Yeah.
And then they gave that orb to the NPC of the character.
Mm-hmm.
And when she grabbed the orb, because of how powerful this orb was, it broke a curse on her. And it's triggered the player's story arc for what happened to her. It was intense. Like, I know it sounds convoluted and shit, but sorry, guys. But this orb, what happened to her is like it broke an enchantment on her.
Mm-hmm.
And she dropped the orb and she didn't know who this other girl was. She was she went by another name. She's like, I don't know who you're talking about, but I am Rowena, not Neredia.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's freaking out because this action that they did jump-started something completely that I didn't have planned for right now. It was like, it was in the books as like arc 47. but I'm like, it happens now because the players are telling the story. The players are moving the plot forward to their consequence. Like action, every action has their equal reaction.
Yes.
It's like they did something epic and cool, but now they hindered one of the party members. And now she's like, I don't give a fuck about the main storyline. I need to fix this.
Yeah.
So now you have that tension between the players who are trying to tell different stories, and that's what I thrive on.
That is some of the best storytelling that you could have, that natural tension. But the players themselves need to be able to handle that.
Oh, of course.
Because when you have dog shit players that can't handle basic tension between other players, and they like shut down or they just freak out, it's like, what do you
like? I've known a lot of DMs who are like, I don't allow like player versus player tension or player versus player, like even combat. I know that's super frowned upon now, like player versus player combat.
With it depends on the intention.
Of course.
It all depends on the context. If you're doing player versus player to actually bully them, like, then get the fuck out of here. Leave.
But I think
a story? That's
like
great.
That, for example, that right there created great player and group tensions. Like, fuck whatever's going on with that bad guy. Mm-hmm. I just went over there because she asked me to. But she's in trouble? Fuck you guys.
Yeah.
And it didn't lead to, like, all the players like, all right, well, you stay here and fuck yourself. It led to them be like, okay, look, we want to help you. but let's look at what is the most important right now.
Yeah.
And her breaking down, because this is a character moment, is like, I just lost the love of my life. I don't know what happened. This is important. And them coming together, figuring it out, and going, okay, we get it. This is important to you. Let's see what we can do right now. The bad guy over there, we took his MacGuffin. We could probably spare some time.
Yeah. It's like,
And
okay.
me as a DM telling that story is important. It's like, I'm not going to, like, that's a great resolution. I'm not going to be like, nope, the bad guy's plan's still going, and no, nothing you did fucking matters.
Yeah, that's horrible.
That's fucking shitty. It's like, no, you took the bad guy's fucking MacGuffin. You fucking triggered this. Like, now you guys are here. Yes, absolutely. Now he has to fucking work at getting this MacGuffin back.
Yeah.
Okay. I love it. Like,
Yeah, it's great.
and that's what I mean by when I have like different stories.
Okay. Well, one thing that I do a lot with scrying. Scrying is such an interesting spell because a lot of DMs that I know, whenever it comes to high level baddies or really really powerful artifacts, they have some like scry blocking kind of wards or glyphs or stuff like that. I always find those extremely boring. It doesn't work. What I do, whenever somebody scries to like a big bad evil, like I mean big bad evil, or like a powerful artifact.
Not the level 5 Baron.
No.
Fuck that guy. Not the priest killing people in the
like for example, it's the main enemy to like this arc. The enemy will notice the scry and shoot a spell or like attack them or like reach out and try to. They're like, no. I see the weave. I'm fucking coming in. You were looking at me. I'm coming. Or he notices them and is on their and they're on their radar. Because I hate that. I cast a spell and I'd much rather it not be blocked than it just. Yeah, it's blocked. I think blocked is one of the lamest thing. Like that interaction where you're like, he notices you. Or I had a moment. There was a moment in a campaign where. The glasses, those glasses that looked back, when it looked back into the realms colliding, there was a being that was fighting with a dragon that is 2 elements.
So like what, two fists of Tiamat?
Yeah.
Okay.
The being saw the person looking back into the past and went, "Fuck you." So it was like, oh.
I love that kind of shit.
That is like, he doesn't kill you. He doesn't give you a level of exhaustion and you're bleeding from your nose, ears, asshole, mouth.
What, you know? Like, I yes, definitely the asshole.
Yeah, definitely.
I love that kind of shit because, like, granted, there are times, like, even I as a DM have done it, it's like, okay, that's scry guarded or whatever. But what I tend to do is, like, you can't zoom in on what you're looking for, but you get an overall picture. Like, maybe you get the capital they're in.
Okay.
It's like, because it would make sense for if they're scrying on something that might be scry guarded. Okay, maybe you can't zoom in a completely.
If it's like an item.
Yes. Or a high level wizard. Like, what high level wizard isn't going to be scry guarded in his secrets? Or what I tend to do.
But the wizard, I'd be like, the wizard knows you fucking did that.
Not just that, the wizard was waiting for it. In my Wednesday campaign,
because you scryed at the wizard, it activated his trap card, fireball, dexterity saving throw.
Everyone in the city.
Like, it's like, fuck.
Oh shit, meteor swarm. What I did, my characters went back through time. Obviously, this sounds crazy. Timey-wimey bullshit. They came back from the past, and they had altered something.
Okay.
And they were attempting to scry on a gentleman that they had an encounter with in the past. And this guy should have been scry guarded, but you find him. But I did that because it told a better story. Like, they find him.
Yeah.
And his version in the present is much more grisly. Like, back then he was like a beautiful, like, blonde hair, like orc. Pristine blonde hair orc, fucking commercial
chiseled tusk.
Yes, the tusk line.
Yes.
And he was one of those, like, bureaucratic kind of wizards. Now they scryed on him, and he has like fucking 5 o'clock shadow. He's like more bulky. He has a cigar in his mouth. And when they scry on him, they see exactly where he is, and he's sitting down with a cigar, hand on his head, and he looks at them and goes, "It's only business." And then casts a spell through it where they had to make a save and shit. And you're like,
that's fun.
Like, they get to see the compare and contrast. Like, why would I make them scry guarded? No, I want them to see this. I want them to get the use out of the spells that they're doing to move this story forward.
Yes.
I've
never liked scry guard because it just goes
no
spell. But like what you said, giving them like a zoomed out version. Hey, you're not getting what you want, but you're moving forward.
Yeah.
Always moving forward.
Yeah,
that's the key, I think, for a good story.
100%. Like, one of the things like, if you're scrying and something, it's like you're looking for a location. Okay, that location may be scry guarded, but like it's blacked out on a map. Like, oh, it's like you don't see that location.
but did we really need to?
But did we really need to? Like,
we really need
yes. But like, why would you stop your players from using their spells and stuff to get there? It's like, what is it that you want your players, like, if you want your players to go through a specific route in order to find that location, but they have access, if they have access to scry, they're already fucking, what, level 7 by now?
Level 5, so it's level 9.
Level 9?
Yeah, level 5 spells are, is scrying level 5, I think? I think it is.
Scrying's level 5.
Yeah, I believe it's level 9.
Yeah, because half your level,
yeah.
So yeah, like, they're level 9 by now. It's like, okay, fine. Like,
They're mid-game.
They're mid-game tier. Like, continents and like kingdoms are knowing who they are.
Yes.
Scrying, I tend to play a very high fantasy world.
Mm-hmm.
So in my high fantasy worlds, like, okay, scrying, it might be a little bit easier to find, but still, like, it's not that common.
Yeah,
right?
Because level 1 to 5 is village hero.
Yeah.
Or town hero.
Folk hero, whatever you want to call it.
Then you have 6.
Why are you writing backwards?
I don't know. Then you have 6 through like 10, which is like you're like the kingdom hero, like the biggest, the best knight of the kingdom.
Yeah, you're like challenging the guard, the captain of the guard's knights to a fucking one-on-one combat, and you could probably take them.
Yes, 11 to 14, you're like a living legend.
Yes. You're world renowned. Like, if you're 11 through 14, like, there should be continents looking for you to solve their problem.
Yes, obviously it depends on the world, because some worlds, I'm not the biggest fan of worlds that have level 20s roaming around in like just whenever the fuck. they're everywhere. There's level 20s, there's level 15s, level 14s. Unless you're going to level 30.
I disagree. I think that the higher that you get in your level, the more appropriate that things are leveled around you. Yes, at level 20, you should be able to go into a kingdom and be like, I'm fucking strong. But you shouldn't be able to take out a kingdom by yourself.
Depends on the kingdom. A kingdom? No.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, but a kingdom has level 7s, level 9s, level 10s. But one level 20 can't take out 400 level 7s and level 8s. They can't.
Fireball.
400?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, I think it's important for, characters to feel strong, right? Like, you're level 20, you're level 17. This is when most classes get their ultimate abilities for their subclass or their main class. But I don't think it's crazy to be like, there are a few other level 20 characters in the world.
Yes, a few, but not
no
tens of thousands or 50.
No, there's not a kingdom full of level 20s from the cook all the way up to the king.
Yeah, that's where I think like those kind of worlds where there's like level 15s to 20s everywhere. I'm a little more detached to the world because it's not special. And that's one of the things you want your characters to feel when they're playing. You want them to feel special. You don't want them to feel like the run-of-the-mill fucking adventurer, because why would I play?
And I agree with that because that's part of the story you're telling at level 15 to 20. It's like we are dealing with God level issues.
Yes.
Not many, like in your world, not many people should be able to deal with that if that's the story you're telling.
Yes.
As a DM, I tend to have more than just a few level 20s because at level 15 to 20, you want to be able to rely on other people reasonably.
Yes.
And be like, hey, I need you to take care of something for me while I go into the Shadowfell and not expect them to like collapse.
Yeah, but you don't want them to be like, you don't want the players to feel like, if I wasn't here, this person could take care of it anyways.
No, absolutely not.
Then what the fuck is the point?
I do agree with that. Like you don't want to be like, well, why was I playing this game?
Yeah, I wasn't here to begin with. Fucking Ricky Bobby could have taken care of it with one drive of his NASCAR car. Like, who cares?
Bro, I think I played in the game back in the day where I was playing with Darren. We had another friend. His name will remain nameless, but he tried to run a game,
Mm-hmm.
and we were all transported to another world where we couldn't escape. And there was this one NPC. I forgot the NPC's name, but he was an asshole. He's like, you guys are stuck here. I need you guys to figure out what's this, get the MacGuffin and figure out the problem. And all the players sat down and were like, okay, we want to get home. We need to figure out the problem. But this NPC was like leading us around, and we saw him take out like two purple worms by himself. And we're like, okay, you got this.
Like, well, what do you
Can
need?
you figure out what the problem is and come back and tell us?
Yeah.
You don't need us. And you're absolutely right. Doing that makes the players feel detached and like, what the fuck am I doing here with this guy? Like, we even in character had a conversation like, dude, you got this. So if you're going to stay in character in that, like, where the DM's like, well, no, he needs you to take care of this. And the DM fights you on it. It's like, us as players, we got together and we're like, okay, this guy's the bad guy.
Okay.
Like, that's what we all started thinking.
That's the only thing that makes sense.
It makes sense. It's like, this guy's the reason we can't leave. We need to enlist the help of everyone in this world.
And kill him.
And kill him.
Yeah.
So we started devising plots and plans and working, and like, we blew up a fucking inn and all this crazy shit. The DM finally at the end is like, guys, he's trying to help you. He's the NPC who's here to help you. He's like, we didn't get that. We didn't understand that at all because he's taking care of all the problems that we are supposed to be taking care of.
Yeah.
Like, he asked us to solve something, but yet he's taking care of things we have no business dealing with. No, like, I'm sorry, you told a bad story.
Yes. It's like the NPC goes, hey, you level 5s, go to the mansion or the castle with an ancient dragon and pull the lever. Don't worry, I got the dragon. I just need you to pull the lever. It's like, what the fuck you mean you need me to pull the lever? You pull it yourself, asshole.
But you know what? Even that is better. Like, even that's better. It's like, there's a backdrop and you got to pull the lever. Great. You don't need me to fight the dragon. I get it. I can't handle that. And then that guy's taking care of the dragon.
No, but he like one-shots the dragon. Then he looks at you as you pull the lever. He goes, yeah, pull it harder. It's like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, no, I definitely think that's bad storyline.
It's terrible.
I try to be careful with that because I do have very powerful NPCs in my world, but I tend to try to be careful of what they can do in the game. Like, in one of my games, I have a bank that players have access to. They are unaligned, unaffiliated, like, they don't deal with any problems in the world. But the bankers themselves, like, they can appear to you wherever you need them to handle financial business only. And it's like, one of the NPCs called the banker, and he showed up where the party couldn't get into. Like, they had penetrated a vault that was like you couldn't teleport into. They were only like low level though. They were like level 7 or some shit. Yeah. And this guy teleports inside the vault and is like, I hear you need my assistance with storing some magical items. And the players immediately felt like, what the fuck? We couldn't get in here, but this guy could? And I felt that tension. It's like, this guy is stronger than us.
This guy is a multi-dimensional being.
And it took some explaining on my part. Like I did show them in the game, it's like, this guy wasn't going to deal with anybody's problems. It's like, and they got to learn that as the game went on. It's like, they don't involve themselves in the like issues of the world. That's not, they're here to bank.
Yeah.
You got money, we will store it. You got magic items, we may sell it for you. And as the storyline went on and progressed, they realized they're unaligned. They don't affiliate themselves with anything. They might be super strong, like some of these bankers, but we can't call on them to do something that we're going to do.
Mm.
And I think that eased the players a little bit better in the fact that, okay, I can feel okay that this guy is like dimension hopping and shit, but he can't deal with the world's problems.
Yeah.
Only I can.
Fair. And it's a really tricky kind of, it's a touchy subject because you want your world to feel alive. You want your world to feel that it has people and that people are doing things even without the players necessarily, because you want it to make sense.
Yeah, of course.
It doesn't make sense if the whole world's just waiting there idly.
Yeah.
Hello. Oh, you want me to move to the side? I shall do that.
And like you go finish a different quest, and you come back and they're still waiting for you.
Did you want me to move back to my original position? Like, no, get the fuck out of here.
I like to make the world feel real like that. So,
but it's tricky because you have to teeter in. It's a balance.
Yes.
You have to make people believably strong and believably able to do things, but not to the point where they don't need the player. To the point where, hey, look, I'm still doing things, but I need you to help me. And even though I'm plenty strong, but I got things to deal with. I got other shit to do. I need you to do this for me until you get to my level. Then I'm relying fully on you.
Absolutely. I think it's important to have that conversation with players if you're going to do that kind of shit where it's like you're going to have high level NPCs and flesh out that lore beforehand. Be like, okay, the world is living and breathing. This is the story behind this organization. When players, if they don't want to know something, they're not going to. Like, they're not going to interact with the lore unless you tell them.
Yeah.
So when they do engage with that lore and they find out that the people of your world have their own goals and aspirations and shit, that makes it believable. And it makes telling a level 20 character who, yeah, I might be able to teleport in that vault, but it doesn't concern me, so sorry.
Who gives a fuck?
Call me when you got some business to attend to.
Yeah. It's like a Terras. They're the unaligned or the true neutral.
The true neutral characters like
don't care.
And one of my other characters realized that the world has its own the NPCs have their own goals. He was able to cast a wish spell. He had gotten his hands on a wish spell, and he traded that wish spell for something else to a demon.
Okay.
And he knew what the demon wanted all along. He's like, look, I got something that you need, that you want. It may help you. A wish spell. And the demon's like, shit, I'm all ears.
It's like, fuck.
Like, I might be a devil, but I don't have access to wish. So what do you need? He got like he got a lot of shit for it.
Yeah.
But
he traded a wish spell.
He traded a wish spell. And immediately after he traded the wish spell, the demon made his wish in front of him. He goes, I want to know the location of my daughter. Their daughter was that character's NPC, that other character's love interest.
Oh my goodness.
Who didn't remember? Who was a whole other character? There's a whole storyline behind it.
Yeah.
2 souls in one body, and the other soul was the devil's daughter. And he's like, I want to know her location because it was being hidden from him. And then Sean's character realized I might have fucked up. Like, I didn't realize that he had his own goals, and I thought he was just here to help me. I'm like,
get the fuck out of here, no.
And so he's like, okay, I might have fucked up. Like, I gave the devil the location of his daughter without realizing the implications of that.
And the player's weighing in all the items he got. He's like, oh, fuck. God damn it.
And it made that character realize, oh, fuck. I fucked up. I may or may not have fucked up, but okay, this is a big story issue going on here. Is like this devil now knows the location of this daughter who we were trying to keep secret.
Yeah.
To save her for the other player character. So
Fuck.
now he has to deal with the consequences of his actions and realize that the story is constantly moving forward. The devil was always looking for a way for his daughter.
And he got it.
And now
He's going to give whatever the fuck he wants to get it.
You want a Blood Fury tattoo? I'm going to even throw up like +3 plate mail on top of that. Go get it.
Yeah. But get that wish spell, it's like, oh, fuck.
It's like, yeah, sure, that +3 plate mail like hurts me as a DM because fucking hitting 27 AC sucks. But yeah, he earned it, and it was a great story that the player wanted to tell too. Mm. So I think we've hashed out a lot of stuff.
Well, I think one of my favorite NPCs for telling a story are NPCs that grow with the party, because even if they were like legends or like stories that they've been told and these people are really powerful, at that time they can find them in like a much weakened state, and the party chooses to help them for the goal in the hopes of them helping them in that goal. Because them fighting an NPC or whatever, the legend or whatever, and he's 20 Chad Branston. Yeah, whatever. Who gives
Chad Branston?
But if Chad Branston had like leukemia and is like fucking weak and frail, and they help him get to his point, but slowly always behind the party, then it feels like we've worked for this person, for this ally.
And that goes to like almost any characters that the NPCs that the characters want to see that story come alive. It's like a lot of times, and players will like adopt an NPC. It's like, you're part of the party now.
A lot of the times,
because most of the time they're just looking for somebody that will like help them along the way. Yeah. But a lot of times, like, it becomes more than that. And it's like, oh, the NPC has a story they want to tell. It's like, are we helping with that story? Like, and sometimes they don't. Like, sometimes the players will just treat that NPC like a piece of fucking currency,
like a pack mule,
like a pack mule. It's like, fetch me my shit, like Jivas, like Jervis, whatever. And it's like,
bring me another bar wench.
And then when that NPC turns around, and it's like, I'm sorry, it's just business, and betrays the party.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Oh my god, like that. I thought you were our pack mule.
I thought you had no emotions, you peasant. Apparently you have goals and strives. Really?
I like when the players do that, because one, it shows that they have an interest in your world.
Yeah.
It shows that they want to tell this storyline, or they want the help of this NPC. It's like, cool. Why do they want that NPC's help? What does that NPC provide to them? What is that NPC?
Yeah.
And now it becomes a barrier for the players. Like, for that NPC to help you, you have to help him. And now that gives them more lore. Like, okay, this may have had nothing to do with what they're doing, but I need help in my country because orcs are being persecuted, and I was kidnapped from my hometown. I want revenge. Mm-hmm. Yeah, about that. Look, can you continue carrying our stuff until we finish over here in this other unrelated storyline? It's like, no.
Sorry. And man, and like you could have such cool fucking things with that. Like, the NPC, you not care about the NPC, okay, but you like forcing him to be like your slave and shit like that. Maybe one night when you're fucking not paying, he drugs all of you and sells you as slaves,
bro.
And you're in cages now with like anti-magic shackles and shit. You're like,
God. He knows all about you. He knows all your abilities. It's like, you should have treated him like a person.
Yeah.
And I don't usually have, I do sometimes have problems with that, but I don't, as a DM, get upset when they do that, because I just know that there's a story that this NPC wants to tell.
Yeah.
And if the players are being oppressive to that NPC, or they're not letting him reach his goals, he's going to get there one way or another.
It's not going to just take it.
No. It's like, most NPCs...
Sometimes.
Some, like, okay, like some... At a certain level, some players tend to draw people to them, and they might have like people who follow them.
Yeah.
And some of these may not be fleshed out. They just might be minions that the players have earned over the course of playing, or they might have like a small little like battalion of people that they can send to die.
My wife cheated on me, or like something like that, or what, or like that. Yeah.
Yeah, like, okay, let's say they create a stronghold, and people come to this stronghold.
Yeah, not every single one of those people are gonna have like intricate backstories with.
I mean, I know some people who might have developed that, but
It's a lot.
It is a lot. But what I tend to do is I'll just tend to have like 1, 2, 3, or 4 of those NPCs who are like, I'm here to follow you, but I need to know that you're worth following.
And usually those people are the ones that are like, that can provide them with something. It's not just henchman number 47. I need your right hand.
Please go and retrieve the insert item here.
Yeah, the MacGuffin for my wife infidelity. Like, what? He's like, fuck out of here, bro.
I will be here when you return. No.
Yeah, that's terrible.
So, all in all, I think definitely like talking to your players, talking to your DM about the stories that you want to tell, the stories you want to see, like even mid-game, like let's say you're 5 sessions in and you find something cool and you're like, we want to tell this story. We want to see where that storyline takes us. Say that to the DM. Because if you have a DM who's not very good at improv, they may need time to like just, okay, that's fine. Give me some time to prepare. Mm-hmm. And you don't catch your DM off guard, and he or she can now like write a story that you want to tell. Talk to your DM and players about the story you as a player want to tell for your character.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think it's really important after every session.
Oh yeah.
Hey, DM, that was great. I liked what you did. And the DM asking back, hey, what do you guys think of the story? Where do you guys think you're going after this? How are you thinking about? And always having, I love always having at the beginning of every session a recap of what happened every.
Oh yeah.
What I like to do is I'll have everyone roll d20, and the guy that got the highest, hey, give me a recap.
Give me a recap. I tend to try to do like change up the recaps every now and like recap badly. Give us a bad recap of what happened. Or like I'll do the recap if it's like something like
something significant.
Yeah, like if it's important, I want to make sure my players remember what happened in the last session or two.
Yeah.
I might even remind my players about something that they did 4 or 5 sessions ago that they don't remember because it might be important now.
Fair. Yeah.
And like maybe they did something 4 or 5 sessions ago that like, by the way, don't forget, you guys jerked off Bilbo Baggins.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, and now you guys are in the fucking Shire. And Bilbo Baggins is looking for you.
Looking for another handmaid.
Like, come on. But having that conversation, I think coming to the table, knowing that knowing that you're here to tell a story. You may not think you are, like 100%. Like you may come, I want to roll dice and kill monsters. You may not realize that is a story you want to tell.
Yeah, it's a story.
Like a lame one, but a story. And I'm not going to harp on anybody who wants to do that.
Yeah. I mean, unless you want to do that, then
you're fucking lame. But if that's the story you want to tell, find a reason why you want to tell the story.
Yes.
It's like, sure, let's say you have nothing in your background and you're like, I'm super average, nothing meaningful ever happened to me in my life. I just want to adventure. And okay, why do you want to adventure? Are you escaping something? Are you looking for something? Glory, that's fine and dandy. How do you achieve that glory? And talk to your DM about that. Mm-hmm. You can have a 2-dimensional character become 3-dimensional.
Yeah. Those are sometimes some of the most unique characters.
Oh, I think so too. So until next time.
Yes. Catch us next week in DM Lounge where we'll be talking about classes.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Until then, we wish you luck and hope to see you again.
Keep rolling dice and killing monsters.
Keep rolling.
Where's my dinner?
Oh, your dinner?
My dinner.
Sorry, honey.
We should add bloopers to this. Oh wait, we're live.